its rules and regulation that govern it. You don't just go into the work process or the work procedures and begin to give order. There are steps, there are standards you have to follow. So number one of such is the Act 1974 that says that the employer should prevent harm to workers and others so far as it's reasonable practicable. So as an employer, it is your duty to ensure that the worker comes to work for you and leave the working environment without any hazard to their life. So it is mandatory that you have to set every necessary machineries, every necessary procedures, every necessary practice in place that the worker will work without endangering their lives. That's the number one act. Then we also have health and safety as a shared responsibility. Safety is not a personal responsibility, it is a shared responsibility. It is our responsibilities. Do not say, I am not the one in charge, or I was not given the order to do it. Rather, it is our shared responsibilities. You look at it in the other way around, we are all entitled to stop every unwanted act. Whether you are the person mounting the machine or not, whether you are the person operating that machine or not, so long as you are there, it is your duty as a person in that place to stop every unsafe activities. So it is our responsibilities, not mine. If we are four and something happened here, that means all of us, the four of us, are involved in that issue because it is what our responsibilities. And by so doing, we get to monitor each person. When there's a mistake from the other angle, you get to stop the person when it comes that way. So when we work like that as friends, as colleagues, as brothers, you see that the work procedures will be very, very perfect. So that is the number two act, that health and safety is a shared responsibilities. It is our responsibilities and not a single person responsibility. So when such attitude is in the work environment, see that the workers will work perfectly, we monitor each other, and the work procedures will go safely. Then self-employed persons also have legal duty not to put other persons at risk through their work procedures. If you said, I'm not working for any company, I have my own company, I am not being employed by any company, then you should not endanger the life of other person. Maybe by their work practice and their work procedures. Sometimes I always use like a carpenter who is not working for any oil and gas industry, who is not working for any safety personnel, who cuts the woods, hits the nails, paraventure. The remnant of the byproducts after production will be dumped along the wayside. By so doing, you're causing harm to some other person. Because some other person is just walking on the road who do not know what is at the waste bin. Mistakenly can step on those nails and those punctured objects, and it becomes what, a sort of hazard to such person. So you also have a duty as a private owner to implement safety. So that is what this Act 1974 said. It talks about a shared responsibility, prevention of harm to persons by both employer and those self-employed persons. So that's what that act says. That also leads us to the rights of workers. As employee, you have a right in every working environment. Your number one right as a worker is a right to a safe and healthy workplace. When I always mention this, I am not training you to be harsh with your superior officers. I'm not training you to be insultive to your superior or your employer. Rather, there are ways you can put things amicably. Where things are not done appropriately, there are channels for communication. Dialogues can take place where you open up to your employer, letting him know the hazard involved in the work process that you are engaged with, and how you can possibly eliminate them. So a right to a safe and healthy workplace is your right. Oh, sorry, sir. Yeah, thank you for the offer given to me. I really appreciate this work, and I will make sure I put my best to do the necessary thing that is given of me. But sir, sorry, this very particular area, I think we need amendment in this aspect. Oh, this thing is not supposed to be placed like this, or this place is for this, and the consequences is that we that are working here, we might have a sensible person will understand with you that this working environment needs amendment, needs some basic standard tool, and subsequently can improvise. Not I can't work here. This place is not good for me. No, no, no. Such is not what we are talking about. But setting out your mission, your request in a very simple process, letting the person see that what he or she has done is not good or what is in place is not safe enough for the work, and then improvising the very solution will also help. Then another right of every employee is the right to a question regarding a safety and health addresses. When you go to any work environment, the first thing you need to know is to study the environment and get to know the hazard involved in that working environment. If you are the first safety officer in that environment, it is your duty to make sure that you do the auditing and the implementation of such. But if where there are others, you have to go through the record book to get to know those basic hazards embedded in that working environment. That is where our JHA, JSA comes into play. That you have to check what are the possible hazards in this working environment. Then you document them down, and then you begin to use that to aid and help the others workers in the working environment. So your right to have questions regarding safety is your number one right. Please, in this place, what are those possible hazards? Somebody that has been there can tell you, this place is prone to snake. This place is prone to scorpion. This place is prone to harm robbery and other factors. Then we can now know how you can plan yourself to go against the hazard that can come the way. So these are your rights. Then we also have a right to receive and have access to all information regarding workplace hazard, a right to refuse to perform an unsafe act. It's possible that when you enter the office, you were told that this place is hazardous. On no account should you go there. But I know that there are some other work days and work practice that might prompt your superior to tell you, manage. On that note, you have the right to refuse to perform an unsafe act. If that work is a work that contains an unsafe act, you have the right to tell your boss, sorry, sir, no, I can't do this. Reason being that this is a source of a hazard. And I keep telling my people that when it happens, you are the one involved in the process. All they can do is sorry to your family, but you are gone. And some other person will come to replace you. So you can look at the work procedures. If it is okay by you, you do it. But if it's not okay by you, you have the right to refuse to perform an unsafe act. A word is enough for the wise. All right. Let us see what job hazard analysis is and what job safety analysis is. That is JHA and JSA. I know as a safety officer, these are the basic slogans you'll be hearing and will be using almost every day in the work process. You'll be hearing your boss telling you or asking for the JHA for that work to be done. Do you have it, or were you given? What are the basic job hazard involved in it? How can we do away with them? So, job hazard analysis focus on the job tasks as a technique for identifying hazard, analyzing the hazard, and applying control measure to the hazard associated with the job before such can lead to an accident. That is what job hazard is all about. A technique, a procedure for identifying hazard, for analyzing hazard, for evaluating the consequences and applying control measure. That is what job hazard is all about. While job safety analysis is simply a step-by-step approach to break down this task into tiny work process and also identifying the possible hazard that can erupt through the tiny parts of the work process. For example, everybody wants to build a house, and in building, there are so many steps involved. The steps involved also has some basic hazard in each of the steps. Take for instance, the clearing of the site. For a site to be clear, for picking to take place and excavation, you must first and foremost identify the various steps. Okay, in this work, what are we to do? For us to build, we have to clear the site, we have to do pegging, we have to do excavation, we have to mow blocks or either buy, and all the various steps involved. So what job safety analysis does this, it breaks down the work into tiny steps, tiny units, and also bring out the hazard in the various steps that are involved. While job hazard analysis does the general analysis. Okay, what do we need? Money, this, that. Okay, what is our challenge? That is what JSA is all about. But JSA, job safety analysis, go more deeper by breaking the task into tiny steps and also identify the possible hazard in each of those steps. So that is what job hazard analysis is all about, and job safety analysis is a steps, a techniques to identify hazards, analyze them, evaluate their consequences, and apply solution. That is what job hazard analysis is all about. A job safety analysis is the step-by-step approach of breaking down a work procedures to tiny steps and also identifying the hazard in it, evaluating the consequences, and also applying control measure. While job safety instruction is an instruction given to the workers concerning the possible hazard identified through our JHA and JSA to the workers. So an instruction is given to the workers, the operators of the specific risk or hazard or machine that has the hazard. Such instruction tells the workers when, how, and the various precautionary measures to be taken. So when that takes place, we said job safety instruction has been done. We actually did the evaluation. We know the possible hazard. Somebody's working on height. Bro, be careful about that ladder or that the scaffold. The scaffold is not properly fixed or it is fixed properly, but do not allow yourself completely from it. You have to use your safety belt just in case. So this person receiving this instruction from you has been instructed on what is good about his life. So that's what we mean by what job safety instruction. Teaching, telling, informing the workers about the hazard in the work process. You have already done the research and get to know the hazard, and now you are telling them that this is how it can happen. Please do this to prevent it. While hazard and the effect management process is also like the job hazard analysis, is a management system tools that focus on risk management as a technique for identifying, assessing, controlling, and recovering risk involved in various tasks as a method of preventing accident or illness. That is what hazard and effect management process is all about. Hazard and effect management process asks the following question: are people, environment, asset exposed to potential harm? If the answer is yes, it means identification has taken place. If our people, if our environment, if our assets is exposed to harm, it means we have been able to identify that there's a source of hazard somewhere there. Because if this person goes here, it might be injured, or our assets might be affected. And on getting to know that these hazards are present, we mean that identification has taken place. Then, what are the causes and the consequences? If that question is answered, the causes and the consequences are the causes is from this, the consequences is because this can happen. Yes, we have done what the assessment of the hazard, the evaluation, the analysis of the hazard has been done. Then, how can we possibly stop or control the process? There, we are also looking at what the control measure. Then, can the consequences or effect be reduced or be mitigated, or are they recovering capability? Then we are talking about documentation process, how we can recover from such hazard. That is what hazard and the effect management process is all about. We also have another basic element that can also act as a risk assessment. Sorry, yes, job hazard analysis or hazard and effect management process. It is also called risk assessment. These various techniques are used in various work environments at different time and for different purposes. One, risk assessment is a tool for safety which ensure that business risks are identified, assessed, and control measures put in place. It is a technique for preventing accident and ill health. Risk assessment look at what could go wrong and ways to prevent such problems. Risk assessment provide the basic for enabling action to be taken in order to eliminate the hazard or to minimize the hazard. It identifies the hazard, it makes assessment of the risk, and then it possibly prevents by means of what? Proactiveness. Risk assessment does not react to issues. Reacting to issue is allowing the hazard to take place, then you are now trying to look for possible recovering techniques. For example, when you procured your machine, I want to use your common machine at home, generator. You are given the material safety data sheet that says that you have to fill the machine to a particular maximum range. You have to oil it to this range, and maybe after 3 months, you are to empty the oil and then refill a new one. That is a proactive nature for that machine lifespan. If you keep to that rules and regulation, the machine will be durable. But the reacting process is the other way around, that you have been told that you need to service the machine every 3 months, change the oil, and ensure that this fuel does not go below this level. And then you allow the oil to stay more than the specified time. Let's assume 3 months and you're leaving it for 6 months. And I know as African people, we always said, after all, those guys don't mind them. My generator has been for 6 months, nothing happened. And as such, you can even leave for 1 year. But I'm telling you today that if such takes place, the day the machine will break down will be the final end of that machine, because it will knock down completely. Either you have to change the engine part, or you replace them with a new one. So for us to be on the safe side, risk assessment says that we have to be proactive. We have to ensure that we put certain things in place to forestall such from taking place. If they say 3 months services or maintenance repair, you also embark on maintenance repair. If they said 4 months, 5 months, you keep to it. Do not extend going beyond the normal time, because when you allow that to happen, what you're going to do will be a reacting process. You are now reacting to the situation. It has happened already, and you are now looking for a possible way to do away with it. So risk assessment provide basic information to make decision on whether the level of risk is tolerable. It compares alternatives, particularly in the design phase. It optimizes the use of scarce resources. That means money, people, and time. And it enables the work process to meet regulatory requirements. So risk assessment give you basic information about what you need to know, about what you're doing, about the safety. It also gives you alternatives. If A is not working, B should work. Because already you've sat down, do your analysis, and get to know that this is what I'm looking for. But in the absence of this, what can I use? Then you optimize the use of scarce resources. Is it people that will enable me to have this? Or is it money that will use in making this? Is it time that I need? So it makes you meet regulatory requirement. That is what risk assessment is all about. Let's see the procedures in formulating risk assessment. Number one, identify the procedures, avoid some basic unnecessary steps, assess the basic steps to apply the method, and then you apply control measure. You document and review it. At some point, there are things that are working perfectly presently today, but in the next 5 years, such things will be outdated. So if we have such risk assessment that contains such that was working 10 days or 10 years back, then today we have to review such risk assessment and formulate a new practice and a new law to ensure that the work procedures are in order. Then the hierarchy for control measure. If after you have implement your risk assessment method and it worked perfectly for you, how do we eliminate hazard when they occur? Number one, we have elimination, we have substitution, isolation, inclusion, ventilation, good housekeeping, exposure time reduced, training staff, PPE, welfare, facilities. Look at the hierarchy of control measure. The hierarchy of control measure, personal
Hello everyone, please the lecturer is having some technical difficulties, so please let us be patient with him. Back very soon. Thank you.
All right, welcome back once again. Sorry for the interruption. It's a result of a network failure. We were talking about introduction to health, safety, and environment. We've taken time today to discuss about the various acronyms associated with health, safety, and environment. We have discussed about health, safety, accident, exposure, risks, harm, hazards, factors affecting our health and safety, or factors influencing our health and safety. We took time to talk about fatality, exposure as the measure of time to which a person is at risk, accident as unplanned undesired events that can lead to accidents, harm to person, safety as the absence of risk or harm from a hazard, fatality as a death due to work-related incidents, regardless of the time it takes place. We did discuss about harm as an injury, death, physical or mental disturbance, property damage, or a combination of that. We talked about hazard as a source, a situation with the potential to cause harm. We also talk about near miss as an accident that would have occurred, but did not, and can lead to what uh, accident that would have occurred, sorry, and did not. Then it could also be an event where no contact of exchange of energy occur and did not result in personal injury. We talk about restricted workplace as work-related illnesses that render the injured person unable to perform function that was assigned to him, and such is given to some other person. We also discussed about incidents as an embodiment of accident or near miss, that is, an unwanted occurrence that is capable of causing or has caused occupational illness, property damage, or environmental damages. We discussed about risk as a measure or the likelihood that an accident or harm from a particular hazard may occur, taking into account the possible severity of such occurrence. We also went as far as talking about unsafe acts as a deviation from the recognized ways of doing things. If you are a worker in the working environment and you have been given a work procedures to undertake, and you step out of the steps standard that was given to you, that is regarded as unsafe acts. While the condition you will leave on ground because of your negligence or violations of the process is referred to as unsafe condition. While man hour is the time allotted for you to discharge your function within a particular period of time, safe working load will told has to do with your capabilities or your limitation, what you can do and what you cannot do in order to be served while you're working. While ALAP is an acronym that stands for as low as reasonable practicable, the likelihood of minimizing an incident to a minimal levels. Then we did mention some basic personal protective equipment that can be used to mitigate some basic hazard to ensure that HALAP is taking place. We mentioned them as hard hat, safety glove, full body harness, safety shoe, safety goggle, etc. These are to help us reduce the occurrence of an incident to a barest minimum. The maximum or the minimizing level of such hazard. Instead of 100%, we can have as low as 5%. The impact is not that felt. Different hazard or different PPEs for different work procedures will be shown. Then we will also show the consequence of not adhering to safety rules. We went as far as getting to know why we study safety, that we are to prevent accidents, injuries. We are to ensure the well-being of workers, irrespective of who he or she is, and to ensure that the physical condition the environment, the behaviors of people, and their work practice suit the work condition. Those are what we look at. We also discuss about the influences of health and safety to our life, where we now talk about the factors and conditions, the behaviors of peoples, which is the human factors, the environmental factors, occupational factors. We took time to talk about the three basic fatalities, injuries, and over 3 days. We talked about slip, trip, and falls as basic factors that can lead to an accident. And the causes of slip, trip, and falls: wet floor, trailing cables, uneven floor, chair instead of proper footstool, and people behaviors. We went as far as talking about the benefit of good health and safety to employee and to employer, productivities, increase in profit, motivation to workers, confidence at work, and so on. We went as far as talking about the act that the employer should prevent harm to workers and others so far as it is reasonable, practicable. And then we talked about health safety as shared responsibilities, and as a non-workers to oil and gas industry or safety environment, as the owner of the company, you have the liberty to reduce hazard to the barest minimum. Then we talk about the right to employee for a better place, to ask questions, and to refuse to perform an unsafe act. Where we talk about job hazard analysis as a technique to identify, analyze, evaluate, and possibly apply solution. That goes a long way to talk about the step-by-step breaking down of the tasks and also identifying the hazard as job safety analysis. While job safety instruction is to instruct the workers on the hazard and the precautionary measure. Then we also went as far as comparing hazard and effect management process and risk assessment to enable us identify the various sources of hazard. Then we also talk about the control measure. That elimination is number one, substitution is the second, isolation, enclosure, ventilation, good housekeeping, exposure time reduced, training of staff to be effective, PPEs, and welfare to enable the control measure to be effective. I think that's how far we can go for today class. And if there's any question, please ensure that you send your question to JPTS International at jpts.org. We can answer your question. Possibly, maybe in subsequent classes, we'll have time to interact. But for today, remember that your safety first matters in every aspect of your work procedures. Engage yourself in a meaningful work and be safe while you're doing your work. Thank you for being a part of this class today. Remain blessed till we meet again. Please take down this assignment and do it and submit to the email that will be given to you. Thank you for being a part of this class and remain blessed. Hello, sir. I'm done. Oh, thank you very much.